Here we are again, Silent Hill.
Okay, so I was looking at the sign for the police. It was just a texture thing, but for a moment it looked like it was spelled police. P-O-L...
That's how you
P-O-L-E-C-E.
know we're in the other world.
Don't worry, the Silent Hill police will take care of these monsters.
Oh,
Just
fuck
you
the
wait and
police.
see.
You say tomato, I say tomato, or was it potato? I forget. Which word was it?
You say potato, I say potato.
You see, maybe
They're
that's
spelled-
someone's
they're spelled the
Silent
same on
Hill
the cue
monster.
cards.
It's they see tomatoes that are also part potatoes, and they can't tell the
No,
difference.
you see, in the real world, tomatoes are a fruit. In other world, they're a vegetable.
A Silent Hill monster. That doesn't sound like a Silent Hill monster. That sounds like a Final Fantasy XII monster, and I wish I was joking. You can't avoid that motherfucker either. He's like the only mandatory hunt in the game. Ugh.
Wait, potato
The rogue
is
tomato. The rogue tomato.
The rogue tomato. Sounds like a VeggieTales villain.
You know that seems a little out there for 12, because I always thought that 12 was one of the more serious ones. But I
It
also
is
have
one of the
never
more
played-
serious ones. It even
Okay.
went out of its way to make the cactars look serious. But
Then-
the
but you're
first
still
enemy is a
hunting
rogue tomato.
a
So
okay.
Selective realism.
It's like somebody put the Dragon Quest monsters into Parasite Eve, but all right, sure.
I meant to record that game ages and ages ago, but I really ended up waiting on it, which is probably a good thing because Zodiac Job System came out in the meantime.
I remember my favorite boss in Parasite Eve being Puff Puff.
Ah, Jesus.
That is another one I have to record. Thank you for reminding me. Ugh, so many RPGs, so little time.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting into Nier Automata. I still haven't finished The Witcher 3. And Assassin's Creed Odyssey just came out, and that one has me really interested. Yeah, I've seen the meme about the 15-hour mark.
The 15
but
hours. Honestly, gaming's gotten better because I remember the whole thing about Final Fantasy 13 was, oh
was
man,
40
it's a great
hours.
game if you can get past the first 40 hours. So, we're improving, I think.
To be
maybe.
fair, I think it really picked up around Chapter 7, which is more like 15 hours. So, they're on par. But I think that was a bit of a misaimed headline there, because they didn't actually say it was bad before then. They just said it picked up after the 15-hour mark. Actually, I keep hearing good things about it, so, I'm interested. Everyone, more than once I've heard it compared to The Witcher 3, and I really want to see for myself whether it even slightly deserves that comparison or if it's just a pale imitation. Die.
As we kick a pterodactyl in the ass.
No, it's face up.
Yeah,
That was the dick.
Yeah, that was the dick. That was a dick kick, baby.
So one thing that I really miss, and this is not related to Silent Hill at all, and I understand why these don't exist anymore, but game rentals. Like, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is the kind of game that I might be willing to try, but I'm certainly not willing to pay the full $60 on it. So,
Well, doesn't GameFly still exist?
what's a GameFly?
There is the whole Netflix for gaming service, but, honestly, what with the whole, timed trials and stuff thing, you probably could get something approaching a rental, but I really think that PSN and Xbox Live should take that system a step further and, let you actually rent a game the same way you can rent a video on a streaming service,
I understand why they don't let you do that anymore, though, because, for example, Mega Man 11 just came out at the time of this recording, and if you could rent that game, you wouldn't need to buy it, because you can beat that game from
Well, yeah, I
in,
know,
like,
but
5
they
hours.
could leave it for just whatever game developers opt in, like for the longer games,
Yeah.
If people were able to rent these big ass open world games, they might actually spend more money on them, because I don't have time to sit down and play that shit in a marathon as much as I want to, and I probably will for Nier Automata. It's a really damn good game. Hi, Lisa.
Glad you're okay.
So we had a dream about Lisa giving us half of an info dump, so we just had to come to the hospital to get the rest of it.
Where was I? Yes. Ahem.
Tell me, what were Lisa's last words?
I'm real
Notice again that
what?
we're meeting up with Lisa in the other world.
You mean me, Lisa, or some other Lisa? That was exactly the last words. Swipe.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if they intentionally named Lisa Trevor Lisa after the character from Silent Hill, or if that was just a coincidence.
That's the character from Resident Evil 7, right?
Resident Evil Remake,
that's
actually.
remake.
Yeah, because I know the George Trevor plot was cut content from the original game, but I don't remember ever seeing anything about Lisa Trevor before the remake.
Let me look it up.
I mean, how often do they throw in? Have there ever been any other like little winks and nods to these other series between them? Because I know that's something that happens.
Well,
from
apart
time
from
to
Resident
time,
Evil
like...
7 referencing Silent Hill like 5 fucking times.
Yeah, but I mean like before. I mean like before that, like because that happens sometimes in games. Like it's usually a little bit like cheeky or we're
I'm
better
unsure
than you.
to be honest, but Remake definitely was taking influence from Silent Hill. And I mean that in more ways than one. They definitely leaned on a lot of the atmospheric tricks that Silent Hill did, but they also made Lisa Trevor be the game's Pyramid Head. And people will say Lisa Trevor is, oh, like the game's nemesis. No, she's much more like Pyramid Head in terms of, her sort of like moving very slowly in a circle in that one area. Yeah, she's a Pyramid Head, not a nemesis. And, it just interests me. I was wondering if that was intentional on their part.
Well, the only series I know would do that fairly regularly would be Metal Gear Solid and Splinter Cell.
Yeah, well, also Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank.
Well,
they were those were more or less brother series though, rather than straight competitors.
Well, there's sometimes there's stuff that's a little bit more mean-spirited, like in Donkey Kong Country 2, you have Sonic's shoes and Earthworm Jim's gun in the trash.
The no-hopers.
And let's not forget the 10 billion The Cake is a Lie cameos from the time after Portal became popular.
As early as, like, what Final Fantasy game was it where they had Here Lies Erdrick on one of the graves?
That's the first one.
The first one? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Wow, that...
Well,
the first Final Fantasy, I thought it was like 3 or something. Wow, the first Final Fantasy does not get to pull that shit, because that game's awful. I'm sorry. The first Final Fantasy is bad even for NES standards. You want to know, they don't get to pull that crap because unlike Final Fantasy, every spell in all of the NES Dragon Quest games actually works. All of them. They do what they're supposed to.
I think Dragon Quest did that too, where they mentioned Link in one of them.
No,
well,
okay,
yeah,
so they didn't.
What originally was is that it was between Dragon Quest and Zelda 2.
When you think about it, Final Fantasy 1's only perk was the same as Final Fantasy 13's. It had really pretty graphics. I mean, it's true. They really jump-started the visual aspect of RPG battles for the time. So, the Moth. So this is actually the same boss that we fought last part. We fought it in its larval form, though. So it ran away into the sand at the end of that boss, and after we take our detour to the hospital, it comes back as a moth. Now, you can go up the steps and fight it from the rooftop up there, but why bother? This is not a combat system that rewards strategy. Run in circles around it and fire your rifle, exactly as you'll be doing in the final boss battle.
The good PlayStation 1 and 64, that era of also PC gaming where circle strafing is the best strategy for all boss monsters.
I don't know why I don't know if that was intentional or if the AI just can't handle you running around in a circle for whatever reason.
Probably a little bit of both, really.
Yeah.
Well, the bosses weren't designed with many, mobility tactics, so, it just has to turn and face you and attack you. The thing about the camera is, unless you're in a really big, wide-open area like the final boss area, you can't really see the boss most of the time when you're using this tactic. The only reason you're going to get a good look at the final boss when we get to it is because I hold down the turn the camera around button while aiming, and the camera actually manages to sort of MacGyver its way into an over-the-shoulder perspective so you can see me shooting the boss.
Okay, so this is not me trying to defend the camera, but the idea that you can't see what you're fighting is not a terrible idea for a horror game, because what you can't see or what you don't know where it is scary, maybe? If we want to give them the benefit of the doubt, that might have been what they were going for.
That's not really what they were going for, although they did utilize that principle in a different way with the camera. I mean, you don't necessarily know where the enemies are when you first start to hear the static go off. So the first thing you're going to do when you hear the static, at least if it's your first time playing and you're not used to the system yet, is swivel the camera around like a maniac trying to find them. So yeah, that's a thing. But in the case of the boss, the camera's just not up to par for what they want you to do with it.
Was this one of those PlayStation games that supported the DualShock and had stick camera, or is this buttons like LMR?
Stick camera didn't regularly become a thing until PlayStation 2.
Yeah, the camera on this game really just turns to follow you as you move, and you have a button that forces it to swivel around dizzily until it's behind Harry.
Okay. A lot of games have that from the
Yeah,
N64
but it's not
PlayStation
like
era.
your Zelda camera reset button where it snaps to position behind you. No, the camera has to swoop around sickeningly to that position. Also, because the game doesn't really have anything new to offer between the exit from that area and the sewer that we're going to, it actually just jumps you straight to the goddamn sewer level after you leave that part of town. So you don't have to backtrack. This is a gameplay moment that they turned into a full-blown mechanic in Silent Hill Homecoming.
The game
I'm just glad
teleporting
someone-
you places?
Huh?
The game...
No, just breaking down the lock.
Yeah, breaking down the
Oh,
lock.
okay.
Which I'm glad a game finally just lets you do, because I know it's a game and you kind of have to like put in like puzzles and stuff for certain things. It always just begs the question of, you have an axe or like a hammer or something. Why can't you just break off the lock?
Yeah.
Or a gun, in that case, you waste a bullet.
The
to
thing
shoot
of-
a lock off.
The thing about Homecoming, though, is that it had a bunch of different kind of barriers that you can break that all required different weapons, but since they were still doing the unlimited inventory thing in Homecoming, you just had all the weapons with you, so it was just sort of tedious to switch between weapons to break them open. Silent Hill Downpour did something fairly cool, where all the weapons were scavenged around the environment, and they all had durability, so you could avoid combat to hold on to a weapon that you needed to possibly break open doors and gates and things. Or you could go ahead and scavenge nearby if you really just wanted to kill things. Which, sounds a little bit tedious, but Downpour also has that thing where to get the best ending, you have to kill as few enemies as possible. So, in that case, not killing things actually turns out to be advantageous.
So when you do that, do you get a bandana for unlimited ammo?
I don't think so.
Aw.
Damn.
Does Sans yell at you if you don't do it?
I mean, Pendleton does have some guns, but it's not really a gun game.
Silent Hill needs stealth camouflage.
The only unfortunate thing about Downpour's combat, apart from the game just not performing well, is they basically reverted back to the Silent Hill 3 version of combat, which is fine in Silent Hill 3, but since Downpour and Homecoming both use the Resident Evil 4 camera, it feels a bit weak.
Did any of the Silent Hills ever become as action-focused as Resident Evil would after Resident
Homecoming,
Evil 4?
but
Homecoming?
not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
Not in a
okay.
good way.
Yeah, it tries to mimic the Devil May Cry, and nobody wins.
It tries to mimic Devil May Cry, but you sort of get stun-locked a lot.
Wait, Silent Hill actually tries to mimic Devil May Cry?
Well, not exactly, but,
Okay.
It has a combo system.
That's so bizarre for a horror game.
They went for a full-blown action combat system and did it very poorly, which is far worse than a horror game being an action game. At least Resident Evil 6 is a good action game, Like, you can...
RE5 and 6 are very weird beasts. they're not bad. They're just bad Resident Evil games.
They're like most of the hate for Resident Evil 6 honestly comes from people just being really tired of that direction for the franchise at the time. Now that we have 7 and Resident Evil 2 remake coming out, I think people can just go back to it and, embrace the crazy. But
Well, that's what Revelation... Like, they could just make a Revelations 3 and keep that style,
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. But Silent Hill Homecoming, like, okay, you can defend the Shepherd House plot and the whole storyline going there. It's got some interesting concepts going for it. But the game attached to all of that is garbage.
Oh, is the ferryman here?
Did somebody put a coin under our tongue so we won't get stuck?
As for Downpour, it's just kind of okay. Like, I can see people being bored with it, but, I like it. I like it well enough.
Actually...
Wait, what was the mythical reasoning behind the coin under the tongue?
It's so that you could pay the toll guy.
Are you sure they just weren't fucking with you?
Mythology's weird, but my favorite...
The ferryman just actually laughs at you because I can't believe you actually fell for that.
You see, what's actually really funny is my favorite spin on the whole ferryman river Styx thing is Shin Megami Tensei 4. When you die, your descent to the river Styx, but the ferryman is overworked because, the apocalypse happened. There's way too many dead people. So he says, okay, you know what, if you give me a little something something here, I'll just send you back up, no questions asked. And he even he even takes credit. So if you don't have enough money, you can go up, and then he'll just take your money once you get enough. It's actually really, really funny.
My favorite instance of anything River Styx is actually... You guys ever play Shadowgate?
I know,
Oh, that's the point and click on the NES,
The point and
right?
click where everything pretty much kills you if you don't have a gun
Yeah,
on standby.
exactly. A point and click adventure
Yeah.
game.
You can get to the River Styx and you can die just by clicking out the boat.
I am so glad right now that we are BrainScratch commentaries because we can just bullshit our way through the sewer levels.
Do you know what I want to happen in the game one time though? If we ever get like a River Styx thing again, where you actually have to like play something of it, you're not actually playing it. You're just sitting in the boat and it's playing Styx.
Come sail
Like
away.
from the band Styx?
Yeah, the band Styx.
Oh man, that brings back memories. The only concert I ever attended was with my dad, and it was like two bands at the concert, Kansas and Styx. I don't remember what any of the music sounded like, and we were too far back to really enjoy it. So to this day, I still don't know if I really
In fact, I'm pretty
like
sure it even
concerts.
wasn't Styx. It was probably the drive-thru of McDonald's.
Stuck in the drive-thru.
You see, I've always liked Kansas, but I've never been a big fan of Styx. I don't know.
Really, I'm
I
the
never
other
visited
way
Kansas.
around. I like Styx more.
Both are better than Journey.
I know there are places in sewers where someone would need to work, so there would need to be like a room with some kind of cheap desk and stuff for paperwork parts of the job, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be sitting out in the open like this where water's dripping down from the ceiling. Like, it'd be in a fairly well cared for room, not this big ass chamber with
No
with
amount of ceiling is going to prevent that desk from rotting out.
I mean, the only thing keeping the water out is a graded fence. If you're going to be working with paper, you want it to be in a relatively dry place.
And that's assuming that the sewer crocodiles don't eat all the paperwork,
Or the Ninja Turtles
Yeah.
don't get pizza all over it.
Yeah.
Those assholes.
And the funny thing is, there is a sewer area in Silent Hill 3, and they have enclosed rooms exactly like I'm talking about in that one. Not this one, though. It's one of
Out in the
the...
open.
It sticks out to me because it's one of the weird places in this game where the architecture does not seem realistic. And that's kind of Silent Hill's thing, is the architecture of the dungeons and the locations is designed to be realistic. It's part of what makes it more nerve-wracking, is that these feel like real places and not Resident Evil mansions. Although there is a Resident Evil mansion in Silent Hill 2's DLC. Well, not DLC, but extra chapter.
Konami would add DLC to a 12-year-old game if they could, to be fair.
Well, I said DLC it was a slip of the tongue. It was extra content for the director's cut. They added an extra chapter where you play as Maria navigating this mansion that's very blatantly designed to sort of feel like the Resident Evil mansion.
Konami would do that fairly regularly for games around the time, just adding little things to their director's cuts or re-releases. Metal Gear Solid did that all the time on the PlayStation 2 era.
Yeah. Although
what-
Metal Gear Solid gets a pass on that for having really cool and substantial additions, as far as I'm concerned.
You mean like the Ape Escape one?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Only if you get it on the PS2 and other shit, because they're not
Yeah,
part of the
that's
HD
them leaving
collections.
that out of the HD collection was a weird decision.
Well, I understand because it's multi-platform. Ape Escape is Sony, but
Well, fair enough.
it's like still, it's like, what about the Tony Hawk shit?
They could have made it a PlayStation exclusive DLC or something, at least. That would have simplified it.
I still want my Tony Hawk Snake Eater.
That minigame wasn't very good, though.
It was still funny though.
It was funny, but it wasn't very good.
Sometimes the joke is worth it.
It depends
Yeah,
on
I
how long it
suppose.
is, because
It's a one level side thing. You play like once or
I
twice.
mean,
Yeah.
they included a full-scale VR missions mode and the Snake Tales, so, after that, I would have been content with just that, but, any extra content, no matter the quality, after that amount is, fine. I'm fine with it. I'll take more Metal Gear Solid 2, please.
yeah, as long as a joke doesn't pad itself out in a game, which is very easy to do. Like, the best example I can think of off the top of my head is Super Paper Mario, where there's the part in Chapter 2, which is probably the part where many people got frustrated and turned the game off, where the game makes fun of grinding in video games by making you grind
a video
rubies in like a literal like sweatshop factory, which, okay, it's funny, but the fastest way to get through it, even if you know what you're doing, as long as well, actually, you can write the code down and it's the same every playthrough, but the fastest way you're going to do it the first time you play still takes like maybe 20 minutes, and that's if you figure out, oh, I'm supposed to go to the super VIP room and all that. So it makes replaying that game hard in many ways,
I feel ya.
which is a shame because Super Paper Mario does a lot of things right, but it also does a lot of things wrong. Like, I want to give that game more credit sometimes than I feel like it deserves, and then other times I feel like it's still very underappreciated. It's
I'd
bizarre.
rather play Sticker Star.
Did
Ain't it the
how much
truth?
of Sticker Star did you play, John?
I haven't played any of Sticker Star.
Then don't say that.
Don't bother with Sticker Star. Just skip right to Color Splash. It's a slightly better Sticker Star.
Like, seriously? Like, I know that it's Sticker Star is the RPG, so you might think that it's more interesting intrinsically. It's not. You can't say that unless if you've played it. It is soul-crushing how boring that game is.
Oh, man.
I remember when Derek streamed it, and he died to the final boss, and it took him another 40 minutes to get to the same place.
Wait,
Yeah.
oh my god. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I also love how the game, to beat the first boss, the fastest way to do it is to use the trumpet thing that you find. And that's actually what it's called. It's called a thing. So I'm not just, being bad at it. They call them things. There's the trumpet thing that you have to turn into a sticker back in town, which is the boss weakness for the first chapter. But you don't know that when you're playing it the first time. So it's like, oh, I found this. After the boss, I'll go run back and turn it into a sticker. So you fight the boss, and it's actually, somewhat interesting and challenging to fight the boss if you don't have its weakness. But then you beat it, and the stupid crown girl says, oh man, that took so long. You're bad at video games.
Anyway, I should explain what I'm doing here. Why I keep walking around and raising my gun and lowering it and raising my gun. There are enemies on the ceiling in this sewer. And basically the only way to see them before they drop on your head is to use Harry's auto-aim and see if he points up. Because if he points up, there's an enemy there, and you can shoot it a few times and make it drop from the ceiling.
Does it do like a lot of damage if it falls on you?
It sort of reaches down and tries to throttle you.
Oh, okay.
So it grabs you and
So it's a
stops you
licker.
for a bit.
It's one
Well,
of those funny things where Harry can see it, but you can't.
Yeah, well, you can also try to swivel a camera around, but honestly, that's even more tedious. So, this is one of the areas in the game where I'm intensely glad that Silent Hill allows you to move while aiming and shooting. Yeah, you can move while aiming and shooting in this game. I know I haven't been taking much advantage of it, but it's a handy
Well,
thing
even
right
Leon
now.
can't do that. He had to be in the police force for like a good 20 years before he learned that little trick. Moving and shooting at the same time. Man, they make it
Dude,
sound so hard.
he didn't learn how to do that until Resident Evil 6. The first game that allowed you to do that in the series was 5, I think.
Yeah, it's
Was it?
like, yeah, you be a secret agent for 15 years, and they only then teach you that you can move and shoot your gun at the same time. Wow.
Now, by the time you get to Resident Evil 6, Leon has dropped all pretense and has become Dante. I'm not even kidding. His special character ability, yeah, most of the characters have special techniques that are unique to them, is called Wing Shooter. It basically lets you take out a second pistol and dual fire them. Of course, you're using twice the ammo that way, but it also lets you do, like, It also lets you do trick shots so that Leon will quickly fire in different directions in sequence, and the camera will quickly snap to each direction in turn. It's kind of tricky to use, but pretty cool once you got it.
I bet Leon would be great at those arcade shooter games where everyone actually tries to dual wield them.
I've done that before.
We've all done it.
It costs twice as much money, though.
But you're shooting twice as many enemies down on screen, you know?
Not when you have aim as bad as me.
And you just feel cool doing it.
The trick to dual wielding with arcade pistols is to only aim with one and use the other to sort of vaguely shoot at other things. So you gotta focus, you know? And, if you're firing both pistols in the same direction but only aiming with one, well, congratulations, you're effectively aiming with both.
I'm just bad at, you see, I'm bad normally, so I never thought that getting 2 would do any better. Although...
Well, at the very least, it lets you do double damage to a single target if you're aiming them both in the same place.
Yeah, that's true. I know that those kind of games are basically dead now because the only place you're ever going to play one is in a real arcade. I mean, they kind of appeared on consoles again for a brief period in the late 2000s, thanks to the Wii. And I mean, some of them are decent. Like, I hear good things about Umbrella Chronicles. Whether or not those still are true 10 years later, we'll have to go back and see. But I hear...
The problem with them on consoles is that you usually need a peripheral, and people don't want to buy that shit.
Well, you don't really need a peripheral for the Wii.
Well, that's why they came back. That's why they came back on the Wii.
Yeah, but people would buy a peripheral anyway, though.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You need at least a peripheral to make the Wii feel like a gun. But it's not something that a lot of people would want to buy. So sort of falls by the wayside.
Well, when you got a free copy of Link's crossbow training with it, then we're singing a different tune here.
Except that thing doesn't look, feel, or even vaguely resemble anything like a gun. So,
are you saying that the Wii Zapper is not an accurate representation of firearms? Because I have a hard time believing that.
Have you ever played Halo? It's a plasma rifle.
Nah, man, we need to go back to the Magnavox Odyssey days where they give you a fucking rifle.
The worst thing about the Wii Zapper for me was that the only game I ever wanted to play with it was Resident Evil 4, but the controls on the Wii version of that are all wrong.
Oh yeah, A is shoot, so you're...
A is shoot, and you can't make it so that the trigger is the shoot. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to not give you the option to make it so that the trigger button is the trigger of your gun. But they didn't.
I mean, granted, this is just a preference thing. I prefer having A be shoot on Wii games, but yeah, it is kind of a dumb move.
Well,
Have you ever played Umbrella Chronicles?
No, I have not played on Umbrella Chronicles. The only Resident Evil game I played is 4. And that was because you guys nagged me for forever.
You kept it in the shrink wrap for like 5 years.
How's that Dragon Quest V review coming, John?
Say what?
You were supposed to do that by the end of 2017. It is now...
I can't hear you.
What?
I have to do a survey for Derek.
Wait, what? What about Derek?
See, my favors correspond to the number of subscribers you have, Ted, and I'm sorry, Derek just out-trumps us all.
Ah,
So
damn it.
basically, if people with a higher subscriber count than you keep asking him for favors, it'll never get done.
Technically, is Game
Yeah.
Explained even Derek's channel? I thought it was.
It's a fact. Like Andre does as much work as Derek does. Hi, Andre. We love you.
You would need to initiate a coup between like Cat Icarus, Gerard the Completionist, Pro Jared, Derek and Derek again, and Cat Icarus again. If you want me to review Dragon Quest V anytime soon.
What did you tell Kid Icarus you were gonna record?
I didn't.
You didn't? Well, then what favor does he have that's in line before
He
mine?
doesn't.
Oh, well, whatever.
He's just saving the favorite spot for when it eventually comes.
Okay.
Man, this could have been the worst part of the commentary. Thank you for carrying it through, everyone.
Oh yeah, I forgot that we're in the literal
Oh,
sewer
you do say that.
level.
We've still got like 2 minutes left, and the commentary can easily go south.
I think I did get slightly lost while exploring, by the way.
It's almost like it's a dark sewer.
It is a dark sewer.
Although
very dark
my modus operandi for these sorts of situations is, if I'm encountering new enemies, I'm going the right way.
Yeah, because
That means I haven't been there yet.
Because you said the game doesn't respawn enemies, right? Or-
Yeah,
So,
not unless it's making you go through an area again.
yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, if
damn
you're
it.
encountering new enemies, that means you haven't been here, which means it's probably the right way.
I hate these stupid plant things. And this is also one of those enemy types where I feel that the limited graphics of the PlayStation 1 really kind of lets it down, because I can't tell what the fuck these things are.
They're an army of mantis men.
Mantis men.
You'll know when the test starts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't accommodate for the disabled. Ramps are expensive.
So, Alessa had that friend we all had when we were kids who had the new video game console, and she played Portal 2 at her friend's house, and it gave her Mantis Men nightmares. And that's why there are Mantis Men in the sewers.
Or they watch Super Troopers.
Isn't this game set in like the 90s?
Yeah.
Well, it was released in 1999. I don't know what year it's at. What? It's
They
not-
don't
it's not-
need
it's
to
not-
know that my logic is faulty.
No. I was gonna say, what are we in a fucking library? It's like, who's shushing me?